why can't Hololive create their own game? This is something that has been brought to my attention recently just from kind of witnessing some of the drama going around in the VTubing kind of circle, right? A handful of people getting their graduations over the last few years or canceled over the last few years and just some other things like that. And some of the new games coming out as well, such as Idle Showdown, which I personally love a lot. And I just wanted to kind of think about this and put this out here. So the reason why Hololive and all the extension groups and the main company, what's their name here? Cover Corp, I think, right? So the reason that they don't make their own game is because how would they be able to consistently keep characters in the game? Like, let's say they made a gacha game and you have all your Hololive and HoloYen and all those people, right? What happens if one of them gets let go of? Their contract's terminated or whatever happens, and they are no longer creating content for the company. The company can't just keep their IP basically in the game that they make. So what do you do? Like, you just start deleting characters? That would not look super great. Like, imagine if Street Fighter deleted characters because in the story they died or something, right? Like in a DLC they just get beat to death and then boom, they're out of the game. You can't play them no more. That would piss a lot of players off because you can't play that character anymore. And if they're your favorite character, then that's a problem. So similar to that, gacha game, especially with gacha games, like if you spend money to get a character and then they delete the character, what the hell, right? But they can't do it with fighting games, and they can't do it with really anything because they are too volatile of a IP holding company, essentially, to be able to create their own video game based assets like that. Some companies like VShojo, not positive if they're in the same subsidiary company or like conglomerate company or not. I don't know the whole history of that, but like VShojo, they are having crossovers with Smite most recently, where you'll get like Iron Mouse and some other characters in the Smite as skins, I believe. I don't know. I don't play Smite. I plan to try it, but they're doing things that are more so almost like sponsorship type things, rather than creating their own game as well. And the issue with that is, again, if any of these brands create their own game, what do they do if they have to let go of talent? And that's kind of the big issue, because they can't keep them really, because the breach of contract or ending of contract or however it goes, what have you, both parties lose the access to utilize that IP. So what would you do? There's not really any other option other than not making the game, because otherwise you'd basically be killing the game and shooting it in the foot repeatedly by having characters everyone loves and then just deleting them, right? So, looking kind of at some games that exist right now for these things, Idle Showdown, obviously the fighting game. I love this game. It's super fun, super cool. They created their game, but it's a fan game. They're not affiliated with Cover Corporation at all. And it's just a fan-based fighting game because, for example, Coco graduated. She no longer does content, no longer VTubes, right? But she's still in the game because it's a fan-based game. They can pretty much do what they want. Holocure is another game that has been brought to my attention, which is, I'm not entirely certain what the game is supposed to be, but I do want to try it. So I got to download it for sure. I'm going to make sure to do that after I record this video. But it's a fan-made game. They can use whoever they want because it's a fan-made game. They're not tied or affiliated with Cover or Hololive in any way, as you can see here. And the other one I found was Iridescent World, which is a gacha game based off of Hololive, Holo all this stuff, right? Um, it's free, no monetization and anything like that. It's fan made for Hololive gacha characters, and I want to try this one as well. Because I think it's cool that there are fan made games like this around such a massively extensive IP, especially with the gacha game. It's like no monetization in any form interests me because, like, do I just get all the characters then? In which case I can just play who I want. That's kind of cool. But like this is basically the only option overall. There's no real way to go about making an official game unless maybe, let's say, Cover Corporation, right? Or however you want to do it. They license a development team and contractually give them partial rights to the IPs of some of the creators in that are going to be in the game, and that is a very big asset liability essentially, because you give another company some of the rights, they can do with that as they please essentially, with creative liberties and such in the games, and it can become big disputes, pretty bad fights, it can cause issues, and it could even eventually blow up to where you no longer can have that talent work for you anymore, right? Because essentially what ends up happening is, let's say, I just theoretically, because I know these names off the top of my head, let's say Hololive pairs with Tencent and they make a gacha game, right? And they give Tencent some of the creators, let's just say, who's in Hololive? Gura, right? I think, right? Let's say they give some of the rights to Gura to them, but in the gacha game, what ends up happening is Gura has like an ability that is not perfectly accurate, then it can cause like a little tussle, and if it's not immediately fixed and remedied, it can cause a bit more of a fight and some drama, or let's say one character's stronger than the other, and yada yada yada. Like it could become a big drama issue, and drama's usually not the greatest. Like any attention's good attention on the internet for the most part, but company versus company drama usually ends poorly on both parties. And what would happen is you'd get like Hololive fighting against their developer company, if anything possibly could have gone wrong, but them both having shared rights to an IP, it basically becomes a legal battle because there is, to an extent, a level of power that development company would have. So it's just something you have to avoid basically at all costs, unless, because then it's like, again, if you do your own development and with your own like kind of internal company and you kind of develop it yourself, issue is if talent goes away, you have to let go of them, whatever reason, you have to get rid of them from your game. At the very least, sharing some of those rights with an outside source would allow you to not have to get rid of them. But then there's a bunch of other problems from that can feasibly arise. So you're kind of stuck in this kind of fan game only bubble, unfortunately, because of just the nature of how these groups work. You only really can be fan games, which is cool. The fan games are great. I think the fan games are good too, because they are largely not predatory. Again, the gacha game said there's no monetization. I don't know how you do that for a gacha game, but there's no monetization. Cool, you know? I mean, they have to, because they can't make money off of it, which is also why it's usually never going to be on like a console like the Switch or something either, because you can't license it with consoles. You can only do it through your own downloads or possibly Steam. But it basically forces you into this fan game sphere, which not a lot of IPs typically do, because usually you make official games. But unfortunately, with how all of the basically idle content creators around the world function, you can't really utilize them as official video game content themselves because it just doesn't work in the long run, which is unfortunate, but you got to do what you got to do. And I find that this pertains a little bit to the content I make. First of all, because I like watching VTubers a little bit once in a while, right? They can be funny, clips channels and stuff like that. And second, the gacha game, Iridescent World, and Idol Showdown, the fighting game. And I was just like, why don't they make an official game? There's so much there, but that's kind of why. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as kind of my thought process on it and pretty much why they can't do it. And it is kind of sad too. It is kind of like the dark side of kind of Hololive and the content creation. It's like if they get let go of, you can't use them anymore, so the game will never exist, which just, it's sucky. But anyways, I just wanted to kind of do that video, so go ahead and end it here. That was just kind of my thought process on it, why it won't ever happen and why it can't ever happen. But definitely check out the fan games. Fan games are cool. Iridescent World, Holocure, and Idol Showdown. They're definitely cool from the looks of it. I know Idol Showdown's super fun. Definitely check them out. But Holocure and Iridescent World, I'm sure, are equivalently as good, and I'm going to be trying them both offline as well. So I'll see y'all next time. And I'll end it here. Peace.